Hello, my lovely people. It's Thursday. Happy Thursday. And we're going to talk about some of the massive money flows that are happening right now. The last 4 days have been quite insane. We're going to break it all down and share all the Bitcoin news and get a status of where we are in the post-halving cycle and crunch a bunch of numbers. It's going to be a fun one. And again, when there's not a lot of action happening, I don't report a lot on the ETFs. But when the action comes back, yes, we do, because it's fascinating. The amount of money flow into these puppies is quite unreal. So we'll talk about as well more options on Bitcoin. Great for the space. How many people are in profit in their Bitcoin right now. We'll look at some new all-time highs. We'll look at a new record flow and how swing states are looking at crypto with a very surprising data point as well. And global liquidity, and this is just the beginning. So let's jump into it. And not financial advice, again, just a guy on the internet. And thank you to everybody on Patreon. Let me dig into this one. This is from Xavier Roy 5254. What an amazing channel on Patreon. It changed my life. Good. Thank you so much. But remember, markets can turn. So we got to be, we're over halfway through the bull. So we're going to be ready this time to optimize profit-taking tops, rotations. That's been my entire focus for the last year and a half. So let's get into it. Bitcoin news time. First of all, LFG team Robinhood is planning to allow Bitcoin futures trading app within the app. I use Robinhood. I love the interface. I love playing, swapping, trading options. It's kind of nice. Not where I just do it for like play stuff, but it's a cool application. And that's great to see this happening. This will bring much more money and risk management into the space too. Let's look at where Bitcoin stands as well. I saw this little chart pop up out there in the wild, and it's interesting to see the top monetary assets on the planet. Number one is gold, 16.2 trillion. Some people say it's 20 trillion. It's very difficult to measure because nobody knows where the gold is or if it even is real or if it exists. So it's one of those fantasy magic internet money things without being on the internet. Then you got the US, has about $5.73 trillion in US dollars. Euro, 5.24. And these two places print. And so does China, actually, 5.21. It's interesting how they're all, and nearly Japan, 4.5. They're all around 5 trillion. Watch those numbers pop. If one goes to 6 trillion, they'll all go to 6 trillion. Then another one go to 7 trillion. It'll all go to 7 trillion. It's just, they're like sheep following each other. And why not? They got the button to print money for free. They should just do it. But then number 6, right after Japan, 1.33 trillion. A tiny asset is Bitcoin. But it leapfrogged over the British pound sterling. Shout out to the Brits in the audience here. Speaking of silver, popped over that too. In fact, interesting, the history between the British pound. A British pound used to be the value of a pound of silver. It looks like they're both together here, ranked number 7 and 8. And then the Swiss franc, 0.6 trillion. Again, it's a small country. India, 0.56 trillion. That money supply is going to grow like mad too. Thank you, investor, for coming. And then Russia, Hong Kong, Australia. Bitcoin will go to the top of the charts. No doubt about that. The question is when. Let's talk about some other good news too. Dylan LeClaire was on Fox News, and he talked about MicroStrategy stock outperforming the S&P 500 because of adopting the Bitcoin strategy, and he claimed this is the biggest story in corporate finance. As I said before, over the last 3 or 4 months, the world is waking up to the infinite money glitch. Everybody's now talking about it. It's great. We've been talking about it since 2020. But anyway, that's a separate issue. Let's get into the charts. Now, I'm struggling every day to find ugly charts. But to be fair and balanced, I found one. This one here is gold and ETH are now trading at the same price. I always like to keep a tab on where we are year to date. S&P up 22.5%, S&P futures 23%, NASDAQ 22.4%. It's unusual, very unusual for the S&P to outperform NASDAQ. NASDAQ is more disruption. That means you could argue NASDAQ is lagging a little bit behind. Gold up 30.1%. That's the best year they've had, I think, maybe forever. We'll see. In a very long time, at least. Bitcoin up 49.7% for the year. Ethereum up 14.7%. The return on gold is double that of Ethereum, and the ETH maxis must be going mad. And Solana up 50.5%. And that's all she wrote. Brian Baggs, thank you for coming. And big thank you to Sean Donnelly and TND Tesla and K8 moderators in the chat, keeping us all safe from scammers and thieves and pumpers and all that stuff. Let's talk about future financial tensions as well, because Bitcoin is all around money. This is a cool ratio from the Financial Times, and I think it highlights future financial tensions. So if you look at the 80s to 90s, the ratio fluctuated around the average. That red line in the middle suggests periods of both ample liquidity and refinancing tensions. But at both 2000, we saw increased financial tensions. 2010s to present, we see more volatility with notable peaks and troughs. Both financial tensions, sometimes ample liquidity, but not too much. But now we're going in at an uptrend into more financial tensions. And how do you relieve financial tensions? You print more money. It's that simple. So refinancing tensions goes up. This occurs when the ratio is high, implying difficulties in refinancing due to reduced liquidity. So they will just pump the system full of liquidity, and that pumps our bags. It's that simple. Bitcoin only playlist will be here afterwards. Let's get into the pretty charts, the good charts, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, shout out to everybody. 94% of the entire Bitcoin supply is sitting in profit. That's a pretty high level. Getting into that pink zone as well, which is positive. This chart is from the team at Glassnode, and you can see how it has fluctuated quite a bit. Like we were down as low as about 65% at one stage, 68% a couple of weeks ago, back in July, and things change fast. Risk happens fast, and Bitcoin is rebounding. And by the way, it's going to do a lot more rebounding. I'll show you why in a second. Also, another good news, crypto adoption is at an all-time high. This is from Andreessen Horowitz, their new report. It shows you internet users versus monthly active crypto addresses in orange. And we started off fast and fell a little bit below the green line for internet adoption. And that's because of the bear market. When there's a bear market, people get bored and they just move on to something else. Thank you, B-Man, for coming. Now we are back above, and monthly active addresses hit an all-time high of 220 million, with growth reminiscent of early internet adoption. Remember, I'm talking about this for a long time. It's the path to 1 billion users. We are a quarter of the way there. The S-curve is only just beginning, and it's going to ramp real fast. I reckon we could get to 1 billion users within 2 years, maybe 3, maybe even faster. We shall see. Also, Bitcoin price history. A little perspective. Again, this does not take into account debasement of your melting ice cubes, but it's interesting to see. Back on this day yesterday, we were at $60,892 in 2021. Today, it's $67,617. Not bad, but you can see the most important thing is the big spikes. Now, what jumps out at me in this chart here is we haven't had our big spike yet. We're not even at all-time highs when you take out debasement. So that means we have a long way to go. And I get more bullish about Bitcoin every day, partly because of this. This is bonkers. Year-to-date flow is now over $20 billion. Bitcoin ETFs have crossed that $20 billion in net flows. That is the most important number, the most difficult metric to grow in the ETF world. And we had a huge week. I'll get into the numbers of how big this week was. It'll melt your face. But for context, it took the gold ETFs 5 years to hit 20 billion. Bitcoin ETFs did it in 190 days. That is kind of special. And total assets now are 65 billion, which is also a high watermark for such assets. Remember, we went through a massive drainage out of Grayscale. That has stopped. Money flows into it have stopped, but so is drainage out, which is a good thing. And shout out to the P Fund. Put this little chart together. I thought it was kind of pretty. I have the bars in the back, but I don't have the gold price of Bitcoin. But what you can see here is the white line. That is the ETF Net Flow. And again, a new all-time high. Now, I spoke a little bit about the three big sectors of accumulation. I believe if you look at the left, we had the big accumulation in Feb, March. We had kind of a summertime accumulation in July a little bit of August. And now we're in the big third phase of accumulation, and it's kicking off fast. Let me show you the actual numbers. This is just October. Just October. We're day 17. Remember I said the second half of October is when things really kick off for Uptober, Rocktober, whatever you want to call it. Here, the ETFs took in $1.65 billion in just 4 trading days. IBIT have taken in $1 billion so far in October. That's the BlackRock ETF. $1 billion. I think I need to be who is it? The Dr. Evil said, a ransom, $1 million. $1 billion. It's big. It's very big, ladies and gentlemen. Let's look at the charts. A lot more charts after this, not just the ETF charts, so stay tuned for that. We had a very big 4 days. It looks like accumulation, phase 3 is back. Very, very big numbers. Now, not just that, I want to wait for that power curve to start peaking up for pink, and we might need a few more big days for that to happen. Once that happens, things are going to kick off. And remember, price is the biggest driver of narrative, which drives more people coming into the space. Now, this is completely bonkers, all right? I always calculate every day how many Bitcoin were absorbed. That's in the model. And here, in just 4 days, 25,000 Bitcoin were absorbed by these 9 ETFs. 25,000 Bitcoin. That's a big bag. And it takes a long time. With daily issuance, this is for the kids at home watching with their parents, how many days does it take to mine 25,000 Bitcoin if only 450 are mined per day? Think about that. This is getting kind of nutty. Also, this is another view of the world. This is how many Bitcoin. The net flow includes all the dumpage out of Grayscale, which is the tune of 400,000 Bitcoin, plus 348. That's nearly 750,000 Bitcoin into these assets. And remember, only 200,000 will be mined in 2024. And remember, the first third of the year, we were issuing 900 a day. Then the halving happened. It fell to 450. These things are eating the world. No ifs, ands, or buts. The ETFs are a force to be reckoned with. Now, we had massive flows, as I mentioned here. This is the $1.65 billion in 4 days, grabbing this, emptying out the OTC desks. The crunch, if this continues, will come soon because there can't be that much left in the ETF desks right now. And let's look at where we are post-halving. Again, orange is this current cycle post-halving, and we have been lackluster, basically flat. That's because we spiked before the halving, which was also historic. This time is different, etc. But the point of this, if you look at the pink cycle, which is the third halving, and the green cycle, the second halving, we're now in the fourth, things kick off right about now. If history repeats, and they will kick off. How long they kick off for, we're not sure, but they're going to kick off. Remember, it's a much bigger asset than before. I do believe things are looking very positive. Also, what's also interesting is crypto interest is rising in swing states. There's a political season happening in the United States, and you can see those states, several swing states, have the most interest growth in crypto. Places like North Dakota, Arkansas, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, all big. What is, even New Hampshire's up there on the top of the list. What is interesting, though, is Massachusetts has no interest, even though I know it's not a swing state, it seems to have no interest in crypto. I wonder, is that the legacy of Elizabeth Warren? Crypto bad, stay away. Maybe, we shall see. Anyway, shout out to everybody in Massachusetts, Boston, other places. But that took me aback. Another place like California, they were early adopters, so there's not a lot of increase in adoption. But we shall see. And the final chart of the day, global liquidity from Financial Times has been rising to the moon lately. It keeps going up and up and up. This is the Financial Times measure. Mine is about 100 trillion. Theirs is approaching $173 trillion. And again, that will float all of our boats. And again, that is a new all-time high of global liquidity. So that's the quick show today. Hope you enjoyed. Thank you to the mods in chat. Hit the like on the way out, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good day, everybody. Bye-bye.